No, God is not a man. You know how you hear the voice of God? How you know whether it is God's voice that you are hearing? Well, let me tell you about God. God is one, which makes him or her universal, spanning the 5% created universe, only where transactions are made, as well as the 95% which remains darkness, which is also known as either nothingness with potential or space. Acknowledging God being one doesn't go without saying that the universe is one energy. 95% of total existence is nothingness with potential, and so the created universe, which only constitutes 5% of total existence, is being held in the palm of God's hand by the mere force of gravity. In the beginning there was God. Therefore, God was not created. In the beginning there was only darkness. God is the only one being referred to as darkness with potential. When God created, she formed creation with the five elements: 73% water, 12% earth, 6% air, 6% space, and 4% fire, which are also the five elements that you and I comprise and in similar proportion. So the created universe has that formation, and in addition to the forming, the filling with things that include light. So created universe is filled with light. So light is a creation. Darkness, among other things, darkness also always existed. However, light is a creation, and so God is also known as who's also known as the darkness, who has always existed, but God is also known as light. So one point to be made here is that since God is darkness and also nothingness, then you need not be afraid of the darkness, because there is nothing to be afraid of. God is one also means that God is everywhere as well as nowhere, places you can measure, um, um, but you cannot measure God. So therefore, everywhere and nowhere, which means the same thing, are references to God and the spirit realm, that which is boundless. God is a spirit, which is boundlessness, whereas everything in the created universe has limitations, meaning defined boundaries of space and time. You cannot either go or grow um, and expand beyond boundaries. Everything in the created universe also goes around in cycles. The point here is that you can only grow and expand limitlessly in the spirit realm, not the physical. As you yearn, your heart can only be full until you encounter something or someone more appealing. And your mind, even if you crush all the levers and pound them into your head, there will always remain something more for you to learn. Therefore, you can never be fulfilled through your physical body and mind. Forget that. Especially trying to grow the long way, one promotion at a time. It is impossible for you to become completely full. By dispossessing and abandoning the ID badges you're carrying, you can become completely empty, however, but becoming completely full for a human being is impossible. Fulfillment for the human being can only mean to live a full-fledged life, likened to bringing your body, mind, and spirit under one roof and consciously making memorable experience, as opposed to living on the basic level of survival, being compulsive in thought and behavior. All the other creatures can only become full-fledged species of this or that, of their own kind. A human being a one-of-a-kind individual, should also want to become full-fledged, a full-fledged human being. Not striving to become like anyone else, the gold standard, you know, going on a hierarchical ladder, not looking to look to anyone, rather determined to become the best version of yourself. Human beings often take leave from reality in trying to relate to God. You can relate to God, however, not through physical means, my friend. Not through your physical five common senses, not through logic, for God is a spirit, not a man, not a human being. You, a human being, is both of a physical nature and you have a spirit core, only through which you can relate to God through your spirit core. You are like an onion, coming with 5 layers, one inside the other. Your outermost layer is your physical body, inside of which you have your mental body, inside of which you have your energy body, inside of which you have your transient body, the ghost many see when they fail to properly dispose of human remains. And, when they keep the clothes, the used clothing of the deceased person, and ash in the house. How can the dead have peace? Rest in peace when you keep them hanging around. Conceptualizing God. Well, I will repeat again. You are able to conceptualize God, however, not through the physical pictorial means. Envisioning God as a man, oh no. God is a spirit, my friend. The one who created every life form, who makes life a shared commodity, shared with all other living creatures and things. You can only claim to have your own body and mind, not your own life. It's more like you have a piece of life. Similarly, you can only know God through your consciousness and awareness. So everyone is conscious, except to varying degrees. The farther away one drifts from his spirit or her spirit core nature, the less spiritual she becomes. In drifting by forming identifications, wearing these ID badges, one departs from the oneness and the impartiality of God, saying something like, oh, these are my people, these are my family. You are then saying that the other people are not. In the rest of the 8.3 billion who populate the earth all belong to God, my friend. All are children of God. All are God breed. Who else created them? Only becoming life when God breathed life into them. So, you cannot conceptualize God using your logical 5 common senses. Logic with understanding being one of the only 2 ways of perception. Before you can know anything, you first have to be able to perceive it. God is real. Not because you are unable to conceptualize something or someone means they are not real. Like God via logic means God is unreal. Oh no, God is real. Real is what comes naturally. If you have to invent it, then it's either a story or a lie. You are able to conceptualize and relate to God, perceive God through this other means. The same way you'd know a prostitute hypothetically, knowing spiritually and legally through a one-night stand of a relationship. That's for a prostitute. So since there is not a logical bridge to knowing God, you can only know God by surrendering, which is not a weak word in spirituality. Surrendering to the experience of having a relationship with God, which is the other way of perception, through the experience of a relationship, other than logic, through your relationship, through your consciousness and awareness. You don't strive to become fully conscious. You simply turn up the voltage. For sufficient light reveals everything. So therefore become enlightened. Awareness is a spiritual concept, as opposed to alertness. You need to be alert whenever you are driving. You are aware that God exists because you are conscious of it. Similarly, you think, feel, and experience life from within yourself through your consciousness and awareness. So, you know God by perceiving God through the experience of forming a relationship with God, and you should prefer to grow in perception rather than growing in expression. Prayer is expression, expressing gratitude, adoration, and making supplication. Useful. They are all useful, but for expression. But you cannot grow in perception through expression, only through meditation, which is not an act, but a way of being. Establishing a consecrated altar within yourself wherein you remain meditative 24/7. To be in the dark is to not know something. Therefore, becoming enlightened is to know that which you did not know before. Finally, as I have already said, reality never changes. It is what exists and therefore what comes naturally. Therefore, it's not something that you either read in a book or hear from the utterance of a professor. Truth and reality are related. In that truth is something you can only come to realize. And because reality never changes, you can only come to terms with it, discover it for yourself. So it's when you go, wow, now I know, that you come to terms with truth and reality. Things that get people into trouble and often misguided are their remarkable memory and fantastic imagination. To either live or dwell On the past is a waste of your existential reality, waste of your time, my friend. So is becoming preoccupied with what may or may not happen in the future, which is also a waste of your 10 average lifespan. To live meaningfully in reality is to consciously be making memorable experiences. To be living, use your karma for that. To be living with full intensity as opposed to half-stepping and procrastinating. Full intensity with a full energy pack on the inside. And relax, not laxed on the outside. Live as if today were going to be your last. Until you reach the level where you can handle dreams and imagination, what you ought to do is tap into your creative genius. Everybody has one, except for most people it is dormant. So activate it. The power many have, which is that they are of the low information class. Step your game up, my friend. You know, you don't need pictures in a book to read it. Well, truth comes, often boring. Truth can be boring. Therefore, grow in perception. Each day becoming a better and better version of yourself, the one-of-a-kind self that you are. You grow spiritually by journeying inward and consciously as opposed to being compulsive in your thought and behavior. Be governed by your spirit as opposed to your body and mind. That will be all, my friend. Let it be so. Iter latiaga. Ayo.